Today, we're delving into the stories behind car crashes of vintage America. These narratives often carry heavy emotions and end in tragedy, casting a sobering light on the video. Nevertheless, it's imperative to reflect on the lessons from our past mistakes and value the life we have today. Two men were killed when their car struck a concrete bridge abutment on US 71 near Waldron, Arkansas. This photograph was titled, "Calling the Shot." If any spot could be called convenient for a traffic accident, this could be it. This overturned automobile with two missing wheels was the result of the driver failing to see the sharp curve on the Speedway Road in Washington, D.C. in 1922. This guardrail saved the driver from going over the embankment, but caused him to turn into the fence as the front hub caught on the fence wires. The worst accident in Bloody 301's history occurred on June 6, 1957, when 41 migrant workers were riding on a flatbed truck when it collided with a truck hauling potatoes. The impact caused the farm truck to burst into flames as the flatbed spun sidelong, flinging out its occupants and killing 21 people. The driver of this car fell asleep a few seconds while driving at 25 miles per hour at around about 6 miles east of Marenghi, Iowa. D.L. Yarnall on June 6, 1925. One man was killed and another injured in a traffic accident due to speeding in Harrison, Maryland in 1920. On September 14, 1936, a sleeper collided with a three-section hand railing of a concrete box culvert on U.S. Highway number 283 north of Dodge City. On November 11, 1936, an automobile passed directly in front of a passing train on the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad, derailing the passenger train and killing the auto driver. On June 17, 1940, a Buick coupe was hit by a passenger train at Ashland Avenue crossing of the SPR north of Fresno, California. The deadliest drunken driving crash in the nation's history happened on May 14, 1988, on Interstate 71 in Carroll County, Kentucky. The bus carried 67 church group members returning from a youth trip to Mason, Ohio's Kings Island amusement park. Around 11 p.m., the bus full of children was struck by a black pickup truck driven by a very drunk Larry Wayne Mahoney. He had been driving on the wrong side of the interstate. The impact disabled the bus's front door and broke the gas tank. In just a few minutes, flames surrounded the bus. The lack of emergency exits, the gas tank's fragility, the seat's flammability, and a cooler blocking the only functioning exit all contributed to the high fatality rate. 27 passengers died, and most of the remaining 34 were gravely injured. The drunk driver was sentenced to 16 years in prison and was released after serving 9.5 years. On December 1, 1947, a smash-up occurred on rain-wet Arroyo Seco Parkway in Los Angeles. A collision of two automobiles on the freeway halted the traffic, forming a long line of cars. At the end of the column, one car's brakes slipped, ramming the car ahead of him, causing a chain reaction and injuring 7 people. On an 18 concrete paving in the north of Sedalia, Colorado, a woman broke both of her legs in a head-on collision. It's the same old story. When it's a choice between a train and an automobile, the latter doesn't have a chance. In the early 1900s, accidents usually happened due to slippery roads. This automobile was slipped on red clay after a rain. Note the wheel guard on the bridge is all that holds the auto. The state was outraged back in 1983 when 7 people were killed in a crash at the Stratford Toll Plaza along the northbound lanes of Interstate 95. On January 19, 1983, just before 3 p.m., the traffic began to build on I-95. 2 cars were lining up in the exact change-only line of the toll plaza, where trucks are not permitted. A semi-truck full of yams and sweet potatoes collided with the 2 cars at the toll plaza. A terrible fire broke out. Debris was everywhere, and a third car collided with the truck's rear. 7 women and children were killed in the crash, most burned beyond recognition. But the semi-truck driver, Charles Klutz of North Carolina, survived. It was determined that Klutz was entering the toll plaza area too fast. followed by a brake failure. In 1984, he was convicted on 7 counts of negligent homicide and sentenced to prison. In July 1924, a bootlegger driving a borrowed Stutz touring car was killed after running into a tree at 70 miles per hour. The 50 gallons of corn liquor he was transporting was destroyed and confiscated. In July 1911, a car slipped on the road and capsized in Bloomfield, Connecticut. After seeing the accident, another machine following this one reversed and went over the bank just below. One of the occupants of the latter car was killed. In August 1928, 4 were instantly killed in a car wreck at grade crossing near Fountain, Colorado. In a municipal railroad crossing accident at 3rd and Calumet, Denver, Colorado, a car was knocked against a pole by a passenger train, killing the woman driver. In 1920, a truck was wrecked due to reckless driving on Baltimore-Washington Road, Harrison, Maryland. The driver was killed and another man was hurt. On August 2, 1946, an estimated 60 people were injured when a commuter bus crashed through a heavy stone railing on the Lincoln Memorial Bridge, which spans the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. The accident occurred at the peak of the morning rush hour, just 100 yards from the Lincoln Memorial. After colliding with an automobile, the bus swerved into the bridge railing, teetering momentarily on the edge. It then plunged and landed upside down on a driveway 30 feet below, about 50 feet from the water's edge. Drivers often have been accused of wrapping the car around a telephone pole. This driver seems to have done a thorough job of it. Deep drainage ditches are frequent and often cannot be avoided in Louisiana. This car plunged into a ditch on U.S. Route 90 north of Raceland, Louisiana in 1951. All the passengers of this crashed car in 1912 were drunk. Fortunately, none of them were killed. A truck was wrecked due to a collision with a culvert headwall on U.S. Route 1, south of Muirkirk, Maryland, on May 15, 1942. A streetcar and an automobile collided on Independence Avenue between New Jersey Avenue and South Capitol Street in October 1946. Thank you for joining us. If you found this video moving or informative, please leave a comment below and remember to subscribe. Take care of yourselves and always prioritize safety on the roads.